And it's my pleasure to invite to the stage now three people who will promise to answer all those questions completely for you individually in a very short period of time. Those people are Michael, and these are all friends, you know these people. So now it's time to do, okay, refocus your attention on applause. This is applause that you give at like your best friend's wedding. Like you really know them and you are so happy for them. Like it's so good. It should feel uplifting as soon as you do it. It's not a rock show, but it's warm and lovely. Please welcome to the stage Michael Arentoft, Alex Cook and Claire Sainsbury.
It's a very long walk from that end. And I feel intimidated trying to follow Professor Duffy's inspirational speech, and I hope that you take some inspiration away from it as you leave this place. At the opening of ICRI, another of our friends, Andre, noted a novelty of ICRI 2022 in Brno was the creation of the Brno Declaration on fostering a global ecosystem on research infrastructures, which highlighted the essential role of research infrastructures. Now, over the nearly a year, 9 months since March as we shaped up the program for ICRI 2024, the International Program Committee gave consideration to how to reflect the progression of discussions around the key themes as we were shaping them up, to ensure that ICRI evolves as the issues of research infrastructure evolve, looking towards that 2050 vision. And also to produce a document that would capture these themes to allow a continued awareness of themes between ICRIs. And so we drafted the Brisbane Statement on a collaborative global research infrastructure ecosystem to address global challenges. So the Brisbane Statement is an attempt to build from the Brno Declaration to emphasise how research infrastructure supports major international priorities. This is a document that's been prepared by the International Program Committee for endorsement by the co-chairs, which I have here. So myself and colleagues from the European Commission and Claire from the Department of Education. It's our hope that when we get to the next ICRI, we can look back and see some concrete action by various research infrastructure stakeholders and to see a clear movement from Brno to Brisbane and to our next ICRI hosts, who we'll hear about soon. So what I want to do is hand to Michael and Claire to provide some key points that the International Program Committee considers to be the high points of what we've discussed over the last few days at ICRI. So over to you.
So thank you, and sorry for jumping the queue, but I want Claire to have the last word. So what you will see at the core of the statement that we have drawn up is a call for all of us to invest in, to support. Call in the statement, the title of the statement, the collaborative global research infrastructure ecosystem, so that it's best fit to tackle the global challenges. Now, clearly, the challenges that research seeks to solve are increasingly global, and we as research infrastructures, we as policymakers, we are becoming, fortunately, increasingly globally connected to meet them. So this great connectedness also helps us find efficiencies, and we have seen many examples of that. First and foremost, of course, partnerships across the globe, where many countries come together to support large international projects, but also the example of enabling access to these infrastructures across countries and indeed across continents. We are also sharing data from experiments, of course, more widely, more smoothly, as we have seen. And we are managing and analyzing far greater volumes of data, and hence the digital focus track of ICRI 24. This means for research infrastructures that they not only need to ensure the cutting edge of instrumentation, of equipment, of technology and services, but also more and more the best use of new digital technologies, tools that manage data, tools that enable sharing of increasingly large amounts of data, AI, of course, AI and HPC for advanced data analytics. And all of this, of course, to increase the impact of research infrastructures to advanced science, to advanced technology, to give us all innovation. Of course, the statement that we have drawn up evidently sees research infrastructures as hubs for international collaboration. A global ecosystem of research infrastructures that put people and capacities together with a clear purpose. And let me borrow an expression from yesterday. The power of purpose is really something that is needed for the international research endeavors and for collaboration across research infrastructures. A global ecosystem of research infrastructures that, and let me borrow another expression from a previous panel, only works if we work together. So this is absolutely necessary if we want to continue pushing the frontiers of knowledge, and we want to continue providing the innovative solutions that tackle challenges in climate and energy, in health and food, so in these sectorial domains that have been the focus of ICRI 24. And now I would like to hand over to Claire, because she is perfectly capable to elaborate further on the themes that we have put forward in the statement. Claire?
So we are also collaborating more deeply with stakeholders who have not always previously been considered in research infrastructures. So this includes appropriate supports for the knowledge systems of Indigenous and local communities, and ICRI users who work to translate research from out of the lab and into applied benefits for greater society. We're constantly finding new frontiers of knowledge to explore and new challenges to take on, which from an ICRI perspective means we're constantly trying to support new ways of doing research, and as a global ICRI ecosystem, we're well placed to meet the new challenges that emerge into the future. Some of these include... Did you just touch on some of those? I'm sure you did. So we've got an increasingly connected world that obviously allows transmissible diseases to spread more quickly. We've got an environment that is changing in ways that are both similar and different to our nations next door. And this raises questions about coastal erosion, food security, and we need ICRI and research systems that can understand, track, and help us adapt to these changes across countries, regions, and the world. So naturally, we have to meet the needs of ICRIs and the ICRI ecosystem to achieve this. And so there are 4 key considerations for us. And firstly, that's the workforce. As many people have noted over the last few days, a highly skilled ICRI workforce is just as critical as the equipment and data. It is important that they can see a rewarding career in ICRI, which means acknowledging their contributions to research and clear long-term career pathways. Secondly, we need long-term planning. Research infrastructure is a long-term investment that needs to be strategically planned years and decades ahead, while also still having the flexibility to change as new technologies develop and new challenges emerge. Thirdly, we need policy settings that allow research infrastructures to adapt to new needs, challenges and priorities, and also to enable the global collaborations that we've spoken about over the past 3 days. And finally, and most importantly, we need to promote our research infrastructures. We heard from Kartik on day 1 about the importance of making sure that the stakeholders who fund research infrastructure understand the value that comes from it. This value is obvious to everyone in the room, but is not always clear to people that are outside of it. So it's important that we can articulate the benefits of our research infrastructure to our nations and to the world. So it is our hope that with the Brisbane Statement that it will be a useful tool for communicating this. Thank you.
And so just to wrap up, I'm really pleased to be able to present the Brisbane Statement. We've made it available virtually on the ICRI website, I believe. It should be relatively easy to find. So really thank you, and really thrilled to be able to present the statement. I've got a visual prop for the photographer, but please make your way to the virtual version as you wish. So, thanks. Yeah. There. It's not novelty size.
Thank you very much. That is an excellent idea, by the way. A note for ICRI 26, novelty-sized or perhaps inflatable statement would be, remember you heard it first here, right? It'll look good on any office wall. We've been talking in and out and around in multi-dimensions, how we piece together the collaborative and the funding and the shared need models that research infrastructure demands. Someone who knows a little bit about that and how to translate it and what all the various strings being pulled are, all the strings that can be both useful and painful, is Australia's Chief Scientist. And it's my absolute privilege to introduce to you now Dr. Cathy Foley.
Thanks, Chris, and hello everyone. It's great to be here. My job was to have remarks from Australia in response to the Brisbane statement, and it was great to see it identified as a tool, which I think is great, not just a piece of paper we put in the bottom drawer and then forget about, but actually bring it out and use it, and I'll talk a bit more about that in a minute. I also want to use this as a moment to say thank you to Alex and to Michael and to Claire for organising this conference. It's been fantastic. I've only been here today because it's conference season, but well done. And I also just want to let Alan Duffy know that he thought he only had one software system when he was doing his PhD. I actually typed my PhD and I used a PDP-11 and Fortran, it wasn't even in 77, to calculate the energy bands of indium nitride, so he shouldn't complain. But also, I can't go too far without acknowledging the traditional owners of the lands we're coming on here today, but also around not just in Australia, but I know globally First Nations peoples and Indigenous people are really beginning to get that recognition of their long-term knowledge and their knowledge systems and how we need to connect with them in ways we haven't done before for the richness of what we can learn together, but also I think as a pathway to solving some of the major challenges that we are facing. And I guess what I want to talk about today is just a few of the reminders and high-level thoughts that I've taken from hearing about what's happening with the conference, because I've sort of heard it being developed and discussed who we've been able to get to join with you today and throughout the week and hear the different aspects of research infrastructure. But we have to remember that for many people, research infrastructure is seen as a collection of expensive toys that privileged researchers like ourselves use to have fun, to indulge in our passions. I think we have to change that view. Research infrastructure, we know, is the vehicle that researchers use to push the boundaries of knowledge and then use those results to benefit all humanity. Let's go back and think of some examples which touch just about every human on the planet. From CERN's need to collaborate and move data around, ended up creating the internet and the World Wide Web. From radio astronomy here in Australia, pushing the boundaries of our knowledge of the universe, that enabled the development of Wi-Fi. Another example is how the idea of moving a single atom around on a surface led to the invention of the atomic force microscope, where we can manipulate matter at the atomic scale. And that means that we've got a whole new generation of quantum technologies beyond transistors and lasers, and that's taking the world on at speed with enormous global investment. And I think you will see it having an extraordinary impact on research infrastructure as well as our everyday lives, from computing, sensing and communication. And it's evolving on as we speak right now. But this week, you've also seen that research infrastructure is on the cusp of changing fast in so many ways and evolving rapidly. Not only is it the impact of digital capabilities, AI, quantum, high-performance computing, they're going to be pervasive, but they are changing the way we do our research. We're doing much more in silico in our design, testing things and being able to use computation in ways we thought previously was impossible. But with that, unfortunately, comes big price tags. And we've also heard the importance of using, I call them super specialist operators, and people who are able to bring the most out of that equipment. Our model for research careers and the management of infrastructure must change to accommodate this. And I'm really glad to hear that there is a global move for better connection between research, its translation and commercialisation as the world looks to research to solve its greatest challenges and have greater and more equitable benefits from the research we do. Consideration of research infrastructure to support research translation is helping to break down those silos that we have, especially in Australia, which we're working hard to get over, but not there yet, on industry, government and academia. And we're also witnessing, I think, something very exciting, and I heard just this morning that 80% of people want to be in industry, but here we're seeing a stronger entrepreneurial culture developing from the research sector as researchers see different career pathways beyond just academia to thinking about even starting their own business. And of course, major new to the world research infrastructure requires global collaborations where researchers test big ideas and research questions and gather support across countries and put forward major global research projects. And you know, the classic ones are things like astronomy, space, fusion, and what we see at CERN. But global collaboration post-COVID has accelerated new ways of working and opening the doors for research infrastructure availability to countries that do not have that capability. In our region alone, there's great opportunity to use the cloud and to access better computing capability and even become what I call conceptual scientists. You've heard of conceptual artists where they have an idea and other people make their artworks. Well, just think about a researcher anywhere with a laptop, internet access, and having just their mind and ideas coming together and being able to reach out to the networks that they have created to maybe, in my research area, solid state physics, you make a sample in one lab. You have it measured in another. Use high performance computing to be able to analyse that data and come up with new knowledge, or virtually. What we're seeing too is the development of automation so that labs of the future are going to offer new ways of doing research, as well as providing equitable access. And if we get the settings right on open science, I think this can have a massive impact, particularly for countries where GDPs are low and where their access to deep infrastructure is not available. This conference has also had a focus on engaging and elevating Indigenous peoples, their knowledge and knowledge systems. And as I've mentioned already, Australian Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples have 65,000 years of culture, heritage and knowledge, which have been elevated through the recent science and research priorities launched by the Australian Government in August. Respect and understanding, as well as openness to learn and engage, are absolutely needed. And we're seeking ways to co-design, co-develop and share co-benefits while upholding their rights and avoiding appropriation. And this is really important, not just in Australia, but across other countries. I thought it was great to see at this conference also a focus on hope and wonder. And I think that was great to see. Research infrastructure for space, astronomy, dinosaurs in collections. I don't know how much of collections you talked about, but those artefacts which we collect give us a chance to look back in time. There will be time machines. And also we hear about in marine science. These are attractors to young people to want to study STEM, science, technology, engineering and maths, and a pathway into possible research careers. But there has also been a shift in what these careers look like, as we've heard many times today. And I'm glad to see this was a topic at the conference, that there is a move away from the lead researcher building an empire, holding their own equipment, with each researcher doing everything for themselves. As equipment becomes more complex and specialised, different career paths have developed and these need to be supported. And one way is to change research metrics that enable more mobility and recognition of individual skills and experience beyond just publications and numbers of them, citations and so on. And I'm really pleased to say this has been a focus for us in Australia. We put out a paper last year on ways to be able to assess researchers' outputs, but we've got a paper coming out shortly looking at a new framework to be able to see how we can look at the skills rather than just looking at the simple metrics that are easy to measure. And finally, the community is looking to science and research to solve and provide a pathway to the very significant challenges that face the planet. last year I undertook a national conversation on behalf of the government where I asked Australians what science and research is needed for Australia to be the country we want to be. And what I heard was that Australians want research that will allow us to be a prosperous nation. But we have to do this as we transition away from fossil fuels. Australians want to have healthy communities that embrace well-being. They want to elevate Indigenous knowledge and knowledge systems, preserve our biodiversity and stop extinctions and prevent invasive species taking over. They also want to maintain the values of our country and our liberal democracy in the light of mis and disinformation and other serious security threats. And these are all reflected in our science and research priorities. But for Australia, we might be a big landmass on the bottom side of the world, for those of you who've travelled a long way from the Northern Hemisphere, but we only make up 0.3% of the world's population, and we do less than 4% of the world's research. So if we're going to achieve our ambitions on delivering all those science and research priorities for the nation, we must collaborate and be part of a global network. And that's what's going to be necessary if we're going to be successful. And we need to make sure that we have the right research infrastructure to push on those current knowledge boundaries and to solve those challenges, not just for ourselves or just for our region, but for the rest of the world. ICRI is a prestigious conference, and we were so thrilled and honoured to be able to be the first city in the Asia-Pacific region to host this event. And it's been a privilege for Brisbane and for Australia. And I hope that you have realised it's being taken very seriously, and a lot of thought and preparation has gone into preparing for today and this week. As I've indicated, this year's agenda and the themes of the conference, they've marked a serious shift in the way we're thinking about infrastructure from previous agendas, which shows how as a community globally we're maturing. The international research infrastructure community has moved away from just talking about collaboration to focusing on the issues of how to move it forward so that we can actually affect real change. I want to acknowledge all the speakers at the conference because they've been fantastic. The discussions I've heard so far today have been really interesting and also insightful. And the challenges in creating research infrastructure to serve our communities and for researchers to deliver on is really important. Us as researchers need to make sure that we deliver on our social contracts. Most of us are funded by government and taxpayer money, as we heard in some of the discussions earlier today. But it's really important that we deliver on what new knowledge we can have as humanity to be able to embrace not just an understanding of our world, but also solve those major challenges. So a few takeaway thoughts I just want to leave with you is that we need to maintain our curiosity, and we need to make sure that we share that with networking and reaching out across, not just in our local areas, but globally. But to do that, it's not so hard now. We have email, we have video meetings, and we have the ability to build value propositions of why we should do research and fund it, and also the equipment that goes with it. And I hope that researchers here feel that they can be empowered, and it doesn't need a chief scientist from the top down to be able to make things happen, but feel empowered from the bottom up to be able to build those cohorts who are able to stand up with an idea and take it all the way through. Research these days is very much interdisciplinary, and we've heard that many times. But what is more important is that we work with integrity, that we are trusted, and that our intent for doing this work is to make sure it's for a good outcome. And so I guess just to finish off, we need to make sure that we do create that ecosystem that we've talked about today, that we do approach things in a way which is looking for how we can make the most of the limited money that we've talked about, but also looking at what we can do to make a difference. I want to congratulate you all on coming together for this, and thank you for the custodianship you all have for the large infrastructure and the small around your countries and internationally. And I hope that you will realise that you can push ahead, that humanity needs us to do this, and that is something which I think you will go away feeling empowered, and that is something you know that you can do and make a difference with. So thank you very much.
I'm going to start sashaying That's the only way you can walk that far in front of people without it being weird, although it'll still be weird. Now listen, this is my first ICRI, so I can say with absolute confidence that it's the best one I've ever been to. That is, of course, hopelessly biased, even if it had been my, let's face it, it's in my home country, so if it had been my 10th ICRI, which would be a miracle, it would still be the best, right? So I'm not going to try and offer that to you as a conclusion or a reflection. It just doesn't stand up to scrutiny. However, someone who has seen rather more of these and has perhaps got a more objective eye is going to join us back on the stage now to tell us whether or not that's true and indeed what his reflections are of this conference as it enters its final lap. Will you please welcome back to the stage Michael Arentoft.
Thanks again, Chris. And I was jumping on stage so that you didn't make me walk in funny ways to get here. So, and I'll try to be objective as well. So, as I recalled at the welcome reception, in the European Union, we have decades of experience in sharing and also in co-developing research infrastructures across national boundaries. We have in place a strategic advisory committee, ICRI, with representatives of all research ministries across the EU. And of course, very importantly also, we have scientific communities across Europe that are used to working together after now more than 40 years of EU-funded transnational collaborative projects. For this, we rely, of course, on the legal support of the EU treaty. It allows us to come together very closely and to accelerate progress in science, in technology, in innovation. We know that research infrastructures are perfect to channel international scientific cooperation and also to sustain this in the long term. Their very creation responds to the need to increase the scientific scale, be it in terms of more performant instrumentation or bigger data collections. We also know that they can only exist through collaboration, and indeed their setup and their constant performance at the cutting edge of research is often the highlight of a scientific career, and this is what guarantees also personal engagement. It's what guarantees also personal commitment. Science is as important as ever. It's important, of course, as we have heard the themes throughout the conference, to face the critical challenge of climate change, to address emergent diseases, be them for people, for animals, for crops, to ensure food sustainability for the future. We have a great advantage now. We are better connected than ever. We have governance structures that have shown to work. Now we have to make sure that we use these to advance our joint progress in all the areas that have been part of ICRI 2024. At the same time, for science to work as a knowledge system, for humans, people, to work as societies, we have to, and this was also a key word of previous speakers, we have to stay curious. We have to pursue and support the quest for new knowledge. We also know that science is not linear, that it's not a silver bullet. We know that sometimes there is this spark, that magic that happens, a new way of looking at a problem, a new solution that makes the complicated look so easy. So, of course, magic does not exist, but science can be magic. Research infrastructures is a good recipe to exactly create this spark, to create this magic that we see with science. They bring people together. I think the people theme has been very prominent throughout the discussions. They bring people together, very importantly, around a very tangible objective. So let's keep this conversation going. Let's keep enlarging our collaboration across the world. So let me end by thanking all of you for engaging in the last couple of days' sessions. and also in the corridors. Let's also thank everyone for being so constructive in terms of having a collaborative spirit and being very open. Of course, it's never the end. It's always just the beginning. So I am looking forward to seeing all of you again at ICRI 26. Thank you.
Yeah, speaking of ICRI 2026, it is time to hand over, as Dr. Foley observed, we are but custodians of this, I don't want to say conference, I want to say entity. It's something that lives outside of us and beyond us, even though we are in it, if you like. So it's time for that transition to happen. Now, if you were here on the first day, you would have seen the giant ginger cookie passed across. That would have been the obvious thing to hand over to ICRI 2026, but I checked the best before date today and it ends 2024. So we're not going to hand you stale baked goods. That would be inappropriate. I have no idea what this is going to look like. Conveniently, it's not my problem, but I would ask you to welcome to the stage now, once again, Alex Cook, and joined with him, representative of ICRI 2026, Marco Lazzarino.
Okay, I will also not sashay across the podium. So I want to begin firstly by sending a sincere thanks to the European Commission for giving Australia the opportunity to host ICRI. It's been a real thrill. For those of you who had the pleasure to go to Brno, I think the energy was immense there at the pleasure that we'd finally managed to put the pieces in place for Australia to host. I've had the personal pleasure of attending several ICRIs, both virtually. I was at Vienna, which Daniel Veselka over here hosted, and was involved in the preparation for the Ottawa event. And a colleague of mine, Sarah Brown, had the privilege to take the baton, as it were, from the hosts at Brno for the Australian hosting, and she sends her sincere regards for the event that's taken place. So as you've heard, it's the first time that the Asia Pacific has hosted ICRI. As we've pointed out a few times, there's been historically a lack of conversation between the northern and the southern hemisphere nations, the global south and the global north, around research infrastructure. And so having ICRI here in Brisbane has been an attempt to address that, and it's enabled nations from the Asia Pacific to engage with the global research infrastructure community. Some statistics: 11 Southeast Asian and Pacific nations attended this year's event. Representatives from some of those nations have taken part in panels, introducing voices and viewpoints to ICRI previously absent from the discussion. And I really hope that the engagement and conversation sparked by this is a sign of things to come. In terms of introducing new perspectives, ICRI 2024 was the first to focus on Indigenous knowledge and engagement. And we tried to put this at the foundation of the discussion, not as an add-on or an afterthought, but to have it at the front of your minds as you thought around the challenges of research infrastructure. And so I really want to send a thanks to the First Nations representatives from around the world who travelled and presented their ideas and concepts about science and research infrastructure. Sometimes speaking about science and research infrastructure that was several thousand years ago, or indeed tens of thousands of years ago. And it's a constant challenge to think about the timeframes of science that we operate within. I also want to thank our partners from the Australian Department of Education, and across all of the International Program Committee membership, who spent countless hours early and late working with the team to shape up what I hope has been an impressive agenda for you. From myself, it's been an endlessly wonderful and rewarding experience working with you on the thought-provoking sessions that we've taken part in over the last few days. I want to personally thank the event management team who have been based out of CSIRO in making this a reality. In particular, Alex Stott, who I think is over there, who has... Sally Way, is over there. Chris Still, who I can't see in the room. Please, Chris. Alana Fitzgerald. And Carisha Parks. And I also want to send the thanks to the other orange t-shirt wearing helpers who have been here working on behalf of the whole team. And hopefully they've been immensely helpful and have made your life a pleasure for the last few days. So, and lastly but not least, I want to thank each and every one of you in the room. Travelling here to Brisbane has, for many of you, been both an immensely time-consuming and also expensive undertaking for yourselves and also for your institutions that you operate in. I want to send thanks particularly to the institutions who have provided support to those who would not have otherwise been able to come here. This has been absolutely critical for the success, so a sincere thank you. So we've had around 420 people from 50 nations who made the trip. I hope the experience has been productive and rewarding, and I trust the jet lag was worth it for all of you. The secret about jet lag is just when you feel like you've recovered, you've got to go back home and live it all over again. So I'm sorry about that. I'd also encourage you to relive the event of ICRI. We've recorded it. We've streamed it to over 500 people who have been watching online. And all of the recordings from the sessions will be made available on the ICRI website in the coming weeks. A number of them, particularly the parallel sessions, you'll be able to watch if you didn't have the opportunity to see them. Also encourage you to look at the reflections of the early career scientists around what they think the research infrastructure needs are. It's often a voice, again, not heard in some of these events. So all of these good things must come to their end. And so it's an immense privilege and pleasure for me to be able to hand the metaphorical baton onto the next hosts of the International Conference on Research Infrastructure. And to receive the metaphorical baton, I want to hand to my colleague from Italy, Marco Lazzarino. Thank you, Marco.
Thank you, Alex, for this baton. And I'm Marco Lazzarino. I'm the scientific attaché at the Italian Embassy in Canberra. And I'm extremely proud to stand here in front of you to bring the words of our Italian Minister of University and Research, Anna Maria Bernini, to announce that ICRI 2026 will be held in Italy. Italy has a long-standing tradition. Italy has a long-standing tradition in research infrastructures. I just remind you that we were among the 12 founders of CERN in 1953, when still the European Union was not even founded, and we were one of the 7 countries we founded. We signed in Rome the agreement for SKO in 2019. And you will have the chance to learn more about the Italian contribution to global research and innovation in the years to come, and especially in 2026, when I hope everybody of you will visit Italy for the next conference. So now let me read the words of the Minister. Honorable Minister, Directors General, authorities, member of academia, and research institution. It's my great pleasure to extend my warm greetings to all the participants to the International Conference on Research Infrastructure. I would like to express also my sincere gratitude to everyone who has contributed in making this significant event a reality. Extraordinary achievement become possible when politics aligns with a shared vision for growth. Today, more than ever, we are reminded of the importance of large research facilities and the impact they have on innovation. Over the years, Italy has consistently supported their development by actively promoting new projects and by investing considerable resources. This dedication has placed Italy as a key player within the European Union and the global stage. This year, as part of the Italian presidency of the G7, we have included large research infrastructure as a priority in the Science and Technology Ministerial Declaration of Bologna last July. Furthermore, in October, we organized a G7 conference in Sardinia to reflect precisely on the role and impact of large research facilities and foster international dialogue and cooperation among G7 countries and beyond. We were particularly delighted to host a representative from ICRI to create a connection with the major global forum for professionals in the research infrastructure sector, which is this one. The location chosen for the conference in the immediate surrounding of the site where Italy proposed to host the third generation gravitational wave detector Einstein telescope is a testimony to our substantial and timely contribution to the developing and advancing large-scale international projects. Today, I'm pleased to officially announce that Italy will host the next International Conference on Research Infrastructure in 2026. We strongly believe that ICRI offers an unparalleled platform to explore critical issues, emerging trends, and challenges that research infrastructure worldwide face in the coming years. I extend my heartfelt thanks to Australia for hosting the E3 conference this year in Brisbane, as well as my best wishes for productive discussion and outcomes. We look forward to working together with ICRI toward a brighter future for research infrastructure worldwide to inspire the global research community and support best science. Thank you, signed Anna Maria Bernini.
I always panic when Alex gestures towards me. You're both free, I think. Thank you. You can have this back though, yes. Yeah, don't leave that behind. Don't leave behind the seal of the Italian government. I might use it. I'm not sure what for yet. Heavens. Now, just a reminder that you're not just at ICRI, you are also in Australia, but you're not just in Australia, you're in Queensland, a state with a long and proud commitment to research and science and innovation. ICRI has benefited enormously from the hospitality and support of the Queensland Government, so it's my pleasure to introduce to you now the Queensland Minister for the Environment and Tourism and Minister for Science and Innovation. Will you please give a warm welcome to Andrew Powell.
Is that what sashaying is, it? Put the mood music on. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Can I start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet, the Turrbal and Yuggera people, and pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. I'd also like to acknowledge the speakers that have just come before me, Dr. Cathy Foley, Australia's Chief Scientist, and Michael Arentoff, the Head of Unit of Open Science, Directorate General Research and Innovation at the European Commission. I've been standing up the back of the room and it's been great to hear their summation of this conference and particularly where the future of science and the community want to go, and a lot of it aligns with the portfolio that I have the privilege of representing. I would also like to acknowledge all of you, the members of the global research infrastructure community who are here this afternoon, and I do apologise. I think I was meant to be here a little bit earlier, but the Governor requested my presence at Executive Council, and if you want to stay a minister, you do what Her Excellency says. Can I start by thanking the European Commission for funding this prestigious global research infrastructure conference and enabling it for it to be held here in Australia for the very first time. I also acknowledge the incredible work of the CSIRO, which has delivered an inspiring event, I'm told, facilitating discussions around pressing topics of interest, trends and challenges facing research infrastructures around the world. And I'm delighted that so many of you were able to travel to Queensland and Brisbane and learn more about our world-class research infrastructure. And I hope you also have time to stay and visit our beautiful state. I heard mention of jet lag. The best cure for jet lag is to spend a week holidaying in the state of Queensland. And I say that as not only the Environment and Science and Innovation Minister, but also the Tourism Minister. Having said that, as a science graduate myself, taking on the science portfolio is something close to my heart. I certainly don't need convincing that quality research infrastructure is vital for a strong economy. Queensland has more than 300 research centres, institutes, facilities, hospitals and innovation precincts. This week, just a couple of days ago, I also attended the National Health and Innovation Precincts Summit, hearing many compelling stories of the impacts of these collaborative spaces, both in Queensland and across Australia. And the cutting edge infrastructure at all these locations has been supported by a long history of targeted Queensland government investment of both sides of political persuasion, in collaboration with the Australian government, again, in both sides of political persuasion, research institutes, as well as alongside industry. Our investment is focused on increasing industry access to research infrastructure to drive startups as part of growing a diversified economy and new job opportunities. Queensland is extraordinary in many, many ways, not least as Australia's most naturally biodiverse state. Such diversity creates significant opportunities to explore beneficial uses of plants and animals through biodiscovery. To support this, I'm pleased to continue the Queensland Government's long investment in research infrastructure and announce today our support for the establishment of a National Indigenous Science Translation Centre right here in Queensland. The Queensland Government is committing $2.75 million over the next 4 years to 2028 to establish and operationalise this new centre at the University of Queensland's Long Pocket campus. And whilst I'm a UQ graduate, I'm not showing favouritism, trust me. The centre is an Indigenous-led initiative of the Injalanji Biranu people and their biotechnology startup, Buluguru Limited. It will be a combined teaching, research and development facility promoting Indigenous knowledge, innovation and to support the development of Indigenous-owned businesses. We know that by enabling this collaboration and providing the serendipity, a new word that I've learnt to use this week, the serendipity of co-location, discoveries can flourish. For example, Indigenous Australians have taught us so much about the importance of proactive fire management. Developed over many thousands of years, their low temperature burns help reduce the risk of major fire events and support regeneration and biodiversity. Now the Injalanji Didanu people of the Camooweal, Upper Georgina River area are sharing their knowledge about the use of local spinifex grass. Together with the University of Queensland and the Australian Institute of Bioengineering and Nanotechnology, they are developing medical gels using the cellulose nanofibres extracted from that spinifex grass. Harvesting and initial processing of this eco-friendly, energy-efficient nanofibre supports local Indigenous jobs. And it has a wide variety of applications, from stronger concrete to low-cost carbon fibre. But researchers believe there will be more uses both in medicine and agriculture. So stay tuned, we might have an update for you in Italy in 2026. On a personal note, I would again like to thank Dr. Cathy Foley for her dedication and insights as the Australian Chief Scientist. I know that our Queensland Chief Scientist, Professor Kerry Wilson, and myself as a science graduate, and no doubt all of the scientists in this room, have valued the science leadership that you, Dr. Foley, have provided for our nation, which has been instrumental in shaping the future of Australia's research and innovation ecosystem. I'm certainly looking forward to the work I have ahead to support and further build the research sector for greater impact and benefit. I do truly hope that you've enjoyed the opportunity to consider the current and future potential of research infrastructure beyond 2050 at this conference. Congratulations again to the organisers, and I understand I'm standing between you and lunch, so a little bit more? No, but I'll leave it at that. Thank you again and have a great afternoon.
Thank you, Minister Powell. Nearly, I'm standing between you and lunch. So thank you for that. And look, just quickly and self-indulgently, thank you very much for putting up with me for 3 days. In many years of science education and science communication, I'm not yet sick of hanging out with researchers and hearing about their work. You would think so. You'd think I'd have learnt by now, but I find it genuinely inspiring and interesting. So thank you for letting me do that. And thank you in advance for letting me do this. We'd like to do an experiment, but it's for a good cause. We'd like to get a group photo. Now, two things to note here. A colleague of mine actually in 2006 won an Ig Nobel Award for developing an algorithm which told you the number of photos you needed to take of a group to guarantee everyone had their eyes open. It's worth looking up. It's very interesting bit of statistical work. The problem is that once you get above 50 people, it's essentially impossible. But But that's normal people. We're not normal people, are we? We can do this. The first thing we need to do to make this possible is we need to get the photographer on the stage, tick. The second thing we need to do is I need everybody to bunch towards the middle as much as you possibly can. So really squash up, inappropriately perhaps. Bunch up, bunch up, bunch up. I don't want to see empty chairs. Empty chairs are a friend missing or something. Oh, very nice. Is it for you? Yeah, good. How are we? Oh, we're doing quite well. That's good. Are we doing? Yes, quite well, quite well. That's very clever too. The standing at the back is a moment of genius. That makes it look like there's only standing room. That's very clever. Yeah, good. The other thing you got to make sure you do is you got to make sure that you can see the camera. If you can't see it, it can't see you. That's physics. Light cannot travel around corners easily. That's why no one can see you when the shower door's closed.
Okay, I think I'm ready.
Yes?
Everyone else? Oh, it's a good idea. I'll do one with this.
Please don't give him any more cameras. Okay, so all the instructions now are going to be from the photographer, so do everything he asks, otherwise he'll make you look silly.
You're all doing fantastic. Everyone just cheeky grins, looking straight into this lens. And as you said, if you can't see me, move your head a bit. All right, so everyone remain as like you are. I'm just going to do a bit of a panorama. So stay nice and still. Keep those grins cheeky. And one last shot with this fantastic lens here. It's not my camera, so... Okay, here we go. Select pencil. Oh, you need to be in it. It looks good, what I just did there. Is it right? I'll do a test shot. Yeah, it looks fantastic. All right, jump in. All right, guys, here we go. This is for the money. Thank you so much, everyone. I think I got it. Thank you very much. It was great. Hey?